Well, it'd be a lot better if people would leave us to stop harassing us.
Yeah, we're just checking.
I'm moving to the shade.
Sure.
Just be careful where you step. Some of these stuff is chiggerweed.
Oh, okay.
Just stay where it's green only. You'll be good.
Okay. Do you remember Whitney from CPS? She was here the first time I came out to see y'all.
Sort of. I didn't get a good look.
That's okay. The first thing I wanted to talk to you about is whether the department has made arrangements to help with the transportation for Ursula. Have they taken any steps that you're aware of?
Taken none.
Nothing. Haven't worked out the insurance or Medicaid, or so y'all are at a standstill on getting.
Actually, I read the law that the judge was quoting. She was utilizing. And the judge's verbal order, because I haven't seen a written one, is in violation of that law. Because it states parents unknown and no, basically notice to the contrary to the courts.
Okay.
Then the judge can make such a ruling. It's the very first line. What is it, 25.001 or whatever? Okay. The very first line, Part A.
I'll be happy to go back and review that and look at that for you.
Read the actual wording. I've actually got it pulled up on my computer.
Did you talk to Ms. DeBose about that?
No, she has been very contrarian.
Okay.
She believes that constitutional rights are red herrings. When actually, I even Googled that. And basically only when my corporates try to use personal rights does it really come out to be red herrings.
Yeah.
And as far as what happened the other day, it was a non-issue. My daughter is a drama queen, as you know, girls can be. Well, boys can be too sometimes, but... And she acted like, I swung a baseball bat at her. And I had done no such thing, and somebody was way over on the trail, over 50 feet away, that made a complaint to the cops. So that has to do with anything.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's something that's been brought to the attention of the department. So maybe you can talk with Ms. Whitney here.
Can we go back to the medical?
No, my biggest thing was that there was an officer that laid his hands on your client. I mean, assaulted her, put her in cuffs, even though she's a minor, just because she didn't want to walk off with a male officer by herself, even though there was a female officer present.
They put her in handcuffs?
They put her in handcuffs and had her sitting there on the table. I've got an hour and a half video. Verizon's giving me hell uploading because it's 27 gigs.
Do you have a compression app that you can use? I have a couple of them.
Not directly on my phone, no.
Okay. Yeah, it's helpful because I can shrink them down.
I got so close. I got like 4 minutes away of having it uploaded on the second try, but it took me like 16 hours to upload it unlisted to YouTube.
Okay. So
trying to back it up.
Did you have some other questions about the medical?
I do. Who was supposed to help y'all fill out the paperwork?
Ultimately, the court is trying to order basically a checkup.
Right.
Non-emergency or urgent medical care.
Right.
Now, in the course of this time frame, I have gone to urgent care. My wife has been to urgent care twice within the last 3 weeks. If there was an urgent matter that needed care, it is obvious we would go somewhere. And it's usually St. David's South is where we have gone.
Okay, good.
So I believe that this is all nonsense, that the department is just trying to force its way because your agency refuses to use the words unfounded.
Okay.
It is not in your vocabulary. Can you say the words unfounded for me?
Sir, I'm just going by what the judge asked. I just need to know who...
Just as a quote, can you use the word unfounded?
Sir.
Okay, obviously it's not in your vocabulary to ever use the words unfounded with anybody.
She's just trying to get some information.
I was just asking if she could actually verbalize that word. Because some people, like say some men, can't say the words "I'm sorry."
Right. And what I'm saying is that it's not her role to make a determination.
I wasn't asking her to. I was asking if, as a if it's even in her vocabulary to use that word.
I think
If it's even in the agency's vocabulary to use that word.
I have seen CPS use the word unfounded.
Yeah, in other states, but I haven't seen,
I have seen it in Travis County, Texas. I have seen them say unfounded. So.
Well, that should have been the case when it was dismissed without prejudice, unless they started off with something new and not basically skipped over 5 steps to force us into services.
Well, I think that's why the judge did not order services at this time, at the last hearing.
She said she would take it under advisement.
That's true.
And she's only been in that position since last summer. Meaning her misinterpretation of the law is because what she's seen done day in and day out, not actually going in and reading what she is supposed to read.
I'm just telling you that.
And I requested, my attorney request de novo.
Yeah.
And she's refusing.
Well, she's a district judge.
No, my attorney.
No. The district judge.
On the Zoom meeting.
Right.
It said, at any point in time, any party may request de novo hearing.
That's only when an associate judge hears it. Judge Martinez-Jones is a district.
Martinez-Jones wasn't the one hearing it.
Okay, then there.
Castillo Littlejohn, who's the associate judge, has been the one hearing it.
And you have the right to appeal that through de novo.
My attorney won't let me.
Ms. DeBose or your previous lawyer?
DeBose.
Well,
I brought up the de novo with DeBose.
Okay.
But both my previous attorney and Ms. DeBose have said my constitutional rights are red herrings. Even the APD officer that laid his hands on Ursel, Officer Hughes, basically said constitutional rights are non-existent. My daughter, my 12, I told him 3 times,
So
she's a minor, she's a minor, she's a minor. Before he put, and she was the wooden ramp, which constitutes basically front porch of a home, because that's, motorhome's considered a home.
Police officers don't have the ability to interpret constitutional rights. So, hello.
But I said either allow her mother, which was inside holding the dog back so that our dog doesn't get shot, because you've seen her, she's the brindle, and
Yeah.
brindles are all pit bulls, in some people's eyes. That's because she's, but anyways, and there was a female officer, Officer Willis, who was talking to me. The Officer Hughes, his ego was so bad, he could not stand down long enough, de-escalate long enough, to basically switch roles and him question me and Willis question my daughter. Because when she came out, I didn't say a word. I kept my mouth,
Did you request that from the police?
I filed a complaint with the corporal that arrived.
I'm just wondering, like, if you had asked at that time, could you please?
I tried.
Okay.
I suggested it to Officer Hughes before he touched her. I mean, literally, because I didn't say a word when she came out. You can ask her, because I wasn't going to interfere with questioning or appear to have an interference with the questioning. And I turned around and he demanded that she go with him that direction past the trailer alone. And it was only the 2 of them on scene.
I can see how that would be scary for them.
She said no. She did not feel comfortable doing so. And continued to say no.
And then he got the whip and actually
He actually started chasing her, grabbed the hold of her. She tried, of course, trying to pull back for her own safety. I kept yelling, she's a minor, before he closed the gap, I said, she's a minor, she's a minor. She wants an adult, she has that right to have an adult or legal representative with her for any and all questioning. And I even, it wasn't until later where I mentioned your name as her legal representative, because obviously I knew, because of the allegations, I figured this would probably get tied in. And so, therefore, since you are her attorney, I requested that you be present for her questioning, because she has built the rapport with you.
Right.
And she feels comfortable enough.
And if she has an attorney, they are obligated to contact me.
Literally, he closed the gap, chased her. She kept pulling back, not wanting, he went up on the ramp to get her. His feet stepped on the ramp. I got on chased her around, and then they were standing over here. She was standing there with her fist clenched. I tried to just sneak up to tell my daughter to unclench her fist before something worse happens. He jerked around, basically telling me to shut up. I kept telling him, she's a minor. She's my daughter. She's 12. You know, what crime has she committed that she needs to be placed in handcuffs? His excuse was basically safety and security of questioning. I was like, what law is that? Because there is no law on that.
It's a question of victim for sure. There's no necessity for handcuffs. But
well, they didn't even know that to begin with, because Ursula had gone back inside. I was sitting outside, and Peggy came outside because, at the time that I got onto Ursula for picking up that cat. You've seen the cat. That's pregnant. We're trying to encourage it to leave us and move on. And but I was doing some work, testing some things up at the hood, up on the front of the RV. I came around, I saw her holding the cat up off the ground. She was sitting on the ground, holding the cat off the ground. I just bought her a brand new pink chair from Academy Sports. $7. Okay, I asked her.
there's no police with us. There's no police with us.
There aren't any. But
Right now, I'm near the fucking cops out here.
So as a parent, a child has been told over 20 times by both parents not to do something, and you see them doing it. The first question I had was, did you have the cat? No. Straight out lie. Okay, I didn't have my cane with me. You see how imbalanced I am to begin with.
I want you to call 911 right now and get the fucking cops.
I turned around
No, don't say another word. Call 911
and
cops
basically the force that met her was no more than a nudge.
out. You hear what I said?
I'm not going to call the police.
Call 911 and get cops out.
I'm not going to call the police. If you want to call the police, that's fine. I'm not going to do that.
But
I don't feel threatened by your family. I'm here because I
we are threatened by the agency. We have not been able to move. We have other legal issues that are now hanging over our head.
I understand. Well, one of the
That we
things-
can't handle because the agency can't use one word
but
that
what-
should have been used back in February.
What the agency is,
But no, they want to, and then they say
Their
there are
protocol.
foreseen circumstances. They are creating those foreseen circumstances.
they have an obligation to investigate when a person makes a referral.
Yes, that original investigation was unfounded. Otherwise, why would it be dismissed without prejudice?
Well, the judge has taken.
And the fact that and then after they dismiss it without prejudice, they hang on to those exact same words and reuse them and skip 3 steps in the legal process.
Why aren't you calling 911 and get the fucking cops?
Because right now I'm recording.
No, you need to call 911 and get the cops out here because that person was out right there watching me the whole goddamn time before she pulled back up. Earlier. You need to call the cops and get the fucking cops.
So, ma'am,
out.
you've been
Really? Really? Okay, that was like the same damn car that pulled behind my trailer earlier. So you need to call the fucking cops.
Yeah, we had a similar car last night behind us.
Really? Well,
You need to.
I got here about 5
No.
minutes before she did.
Not
No.
yours.
before
I know
you
yours
say-
is the red Jeep.
No, before you say anything else, call the cops, get the cops out here.
But as far as
Because
Ursula's
they're getting fucked. No,
Ursula's concerned, she even told the cops.
Shut the fuck up.
The only
No,
pain she was in was from the cuffs
no.
that were placed on her.
No, shut the fuck up. Ursula's getting fucking removed today.
Now, if y'all are
Because
going to
that fucking
insist
bitch.
to be up
No.
our ass, y'all might as well file the
no,
Title
you
III
better call
hearings.
the fucking cops.
That's
Somebody better call the cops.
the only.
I am not here.
That's the only other reason. See,
Yes, she is getting removed. That's it. That's all there is to it.
because
If I got
my wife's her cancer's
kicking and
spreading
screaming,
from all the
I
stress.
will put her in that car. She is gone today because I'm not pub with this shit no more.
I am not here to assist in a removal.
Where's your fucking cops?
We don't need the cops to be here.
Oh, I need cops.
If you want them, call them.
I need cops.
Okay.
You need to call cops.
You call them. You want them, you call them.
Because these people are...
You want them, you call them.
me off.
You want them, go
Because
ahead.
you're out here just... Why you might be all friendly to them?
No, I'm talking to our daughter's attorney. I do not like the fact that she is here, but I can't... But
Well, call the judge and get it removed, you fucking bitch.
because that's the only... Because if you read all the articles regarding when the judge can sign off, Title III removals...
Me and Eric are getting a divorce because of this shit, too.
So
So I
sorry.
hope you're happy, you bitch.
Yeah, y'all break up families because I'm just the alleged father and my wife's a slut. According to the agency. Even though we were together and also married before her birth. I just don't like New York State documents. Even though we are a straight couple. We are religious, we are Christian religious, but hey, agency can't do nothing but break up families because they can't use the word unfounded. Create circumstances that require their intervention instead of allowing us to move on to resolve the issues on our own.
So, Ms. Whitney has a few questions about the investigation. You could choose to answer them or not answer them, but and she's not law enforcement. She's CPS.
Same. They tried to use the same exigent circumstances, the same law. They want their cake and eat it too. They think they could do it. Basically, they're above the police, but still have police powers.
Ultimately, she's not the decision maker about whether there should be a removal. She's the investigator.
But the thing is,
you can decline to answer her questions.
we don't want removal. We don't want them in our lives.
I don't want removal, but right now, yeah, this is not.
But if you don't want removal, there's no cause, no Title III actions and cause for removal, then why can't you get out of our assholes?
The judge asked for her to have a medical and a dental checkup.
In violation of the law. If you actually read the law, when notice has been given contrary to approval,
My understanding from
and it doesn't say or, it says and parents are unable to be located. Parents, legal guardians unable to be located.
understand.
Section A, before it even gets down to underneath Section A, number, I believe, 7, which is where it says the court.
Yeah.
And then the other cases are when the child is in the custody and care of the state or county, or how you want to refer to it, of the agency. Title III removal, where they are in foster care or some other in the care of other than parents.
So,
Our grandparents, because I mean, even it literally goes through the whole litany of it.
so Reverend
And even
Miller,
immunizations have a separate thing on it.
Reverend Miller, I represent what she wants to have happen.
And what she has told, and
And-
she said she doesn't want to be removed.
I understand that. I have never.
Although at this
heard
point,
anything else.
with her drama queen, I'm surprised she hasn't changed her mind.
Well, I am going to advocate for what this young lady tells me.
If you want it to be removed, tell them. Because literally every single hour, every single minute, the agency continues up our ass. Okay? Yes, I'm a Christian. Yes, I'm an ordained minister, but I am also a veteran. I am a human being.
I know.
And trust me, I could be saying a whole hell of a lot worse being a sailor and former truck driver. Okay? But I almost went after that cop the other night
It must be really difficult
because of him laying his hands on her.
It must be really difficult for your family to continue to have people inject themselves into your lives, and I get that.
There are people that want, because there are Karens everywhere. 50, 100 feet away, don't understand the situation. Don't understand that my wife's cancer, her vision is getting worse. That's why she's had to go to urgent care twice in the last couple weeks. Her cancer has now spread to her brain from all the stress. She's had many strokes because of the stress. And the agency is causing this. Instead of having maybe 5 years of my wife left to live and try to enjoy our family together while we can, The agency wants to basically lock her up and throw her in jail for 2 years and have her die there.
No, we've never said that. So.
That's what's been relayed to her via her attorney. Is that y'all want to sit there and they'll say she's at fault, she's neglecting our child, and therefore she needs locked up for 2 years. And an institution. She needs to be institutionalized for 2 years. No, she just needs people to leave her the hell alone. That's part of the reason we are a full-time RV, not just for the ministry. The ministry is just me, you know, fulfilling my faith. But a lot of it is the fact that my health is getting worse. My wife's health is getting worse. She has been on borrowed time since before our daughter was even conceived. I mean, she should have been in a wheelchair or bedridden before we even met.
I hear you. I'm hearing what you're saying.
Because of the cancer and everything else she has.
It's awful what your family's going through. I get it.
And any other state, oh, there's nothing here? Unfounded. But of course, they can't conveniently reveal that to the court. What they showed to the courts of the history was laughable at best. They only showed the stuff most influential to their determinations. They did not show all the unfounded or anything else that showed that basically, and even what they did show was still was basically unfounded. They didn't show where my wife's son was removed because of her abusive ex, and her attorney failed to appear on her. That was when we first met. They coerced her into signing away her parental rights.
Her lawyer.
And we were barely dating at the time. I wanted to be in there with her because her attorney was a no-show Huey, working in conjunction with the agency.
Well, I can tell you, Mr. Gaffney's not.
No, her contact with Mr. Gaffney has been great.
Good.
I wished I had him for my attorney as well, because since we are a married couple and our rights our rights and what we want done is aligned, I don't see why he couldn't be our attorney for both.
Yeah.
But the agency wanted to make sure to separate us legally and then make sure to say, I'm only an alleged father. Trying to create everything. They are creating a narrative and a story to fit their beliefs of what they're used to seeing. We get a call, there's got to be drugs and alcohol involved. There's got to be this involved. There's got to be that involved. Just because we got a call, especially if they're white people. Oh, they're Christians? Oh no, we can't have that. We can't have Christians in Travis County that believe in straight marriage and are proof a straight marriage can work. It's all anti-man, anti-marriage, anti-family that they're doing. Anti-Christian. That's why I kept saying the 6th Amendment to the Texas Constitution can make no laws abridging or interrupting when, where, how we worship. And this is abridging all that. This is stepping and encroaching on all of that.
Will you allow Whitney to ask you some questions? And if you don't want to answer them, don't answer them. Or do you want your lawyer to be present for that? Or
Miss DeBose is a joke. She works for the court, not for me.
you can say no to answering questions. I'm just saying, can she ask them?
Ask away. I'll answer if appropriate.
Are we going to be able to get a checkup for Ursula?
Not without violating constitutional rights and the law. If she needs urgent care, she will be taken to urgent care. If she needs emergency care, she'll be taken to emergency care. And at that point, if y'all are still involved, the first person I'll be calling would be Mr. Rozell's office, leaving a message saying, yes, she got injured, she's here, looking out for your client, so that way you know that there's an actual reason, and they could shut the hell up.
Yeah.
But they should have shut the hell up a long time ago. 2 months ago now. Over 60 days ago, y'all dismissed without prejudice. This is going on 4 months almost. So, that violates even the Texas rules for their agency.
So my concern is that I don't want my client to be taken.
I'm sorry.
To be taken from your care, and that's why I'm here.
But the more they insist on being up our ass, the more stress it puts on my wife, and my wife doesn't need the stress. That's what her whole problem is right now. It's very extremely stressful to her and to me.
I get that. There's nothing.
And to Ursel.
There's nothing.
She can't focus on her schoolwork. I can't focus on my ministry things that I need to focus on.
Having CPS get
my
involved
wife's
in your
cancer
life
is spreading because it's causing her to stress and stroke out, have many strokes, and spread the cancer.
I feel your pain about this. I do.
She now has vertigo because it has affected her brain and her balance. Because the agency won't leave us alone. February should have been done with it unless there was a new call at that time. Like say, in February when they dismissed without prejudice, if they had nothing then and still had nothing on that, fine and dandy. Should have been dismissed without prejudice. Then the call from a couple nights ago is a new incident. Okay, come out and check out. But here's the thing. We wouldn't have even been here if we were allowed to leave. We would have been on down the road, taking care of other business, ministering elsewhere, maybe in Dallas, Fort Worth, or somewhere else. The cat would not have been an issue because we wouldn't have been nowhere near it. It doesn't matter if it was a cat, it was another dog, if it was a mountain lion. You tell your child not to touch an animal. I'm sorry, what parent is going to be protected, get onto their child for touching an animal when you're trying to protect them from themselves? You're not going to get onto a child because they reached up to touch a hot stove? You're just going to let them burn themselves? Oh, wait. Yeah, you let them burn themselves, and then CPS shows up, or a CPI, whatever letters they want to use, DSFS, DSHS, whatever. Then they show up, and, if you would have gotten onto your child, even though corporal punishment is perfectly legal in Texas, and trust me, I was nowhere near corporal punishment, nowhere near that threshold. Trust me, I know. I grew up here in Texas. I've had the belt and the paddle across my ass. And also the signatures to the teachers, and to the principal's office of the school, to where they can be authorized under the law for corporal punishment. I read that part in the law too.
I grew up here too.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've, whether you deserved it or not, have had your hide blistered. Because I got a shoulder injury on this side, I have balance issues. I'm weak, I'm flat, I'm flabby.
Well,
I can't do anything, but she's a drama queen.
The law says that you can use corporal punishment as long as you don't injure the child. That's what the law says.
And basically nudging her with my toes, basically one toe made contact.
I don't know.
To get her up off the ground. But she flew back like I swung a bait. Literally, you can ask her, she sat there. I came up without a cane, which means I was totally off balance to begin with. I did a couple of kicks that I made more contact with the ground than I did with her side, which is flabby. There's meat, there's fat there. There's no bruising. Definitely no bruising when they showed up. I mean, me falling and leaning on you would have been more pressure and power than that.
Are you okay?
Tell them if you want to leave. Tell them now.
I'm not asking you if you want to leave. I know the answer to that.
If you want the agency to take you into foster care so you can be abused by someone that they put you with.
I'm not asking her if she wants to be removed. I'm not asking.
Well, the judge has no rights to order her medical care unless it's a Title III removal. That's all. I read it. Since we have already stated before the court, to the agency and before the court, we have made, and with our attorneys, have made our
Your positions about
our positions known. Well known.
Can you just make sure she's okay?
I mean, so much so that I turned around and objected in the court, over Zoom over it. That gave the judge no right to even make her order.
I'm not going to ask Ursula any other questions unless she wants to tell me something. I just
You want to tell him?
No,
You can say whatever you want to tell him.
if she's okay. That's all. Are you doing okay?
Yes.
Okay.
What?
Well, I'm not in your guts. I'm just here to talk to you. You're my client, and I care about what happens to you.
And I requested your presence the other night because since I knew this was basically going to be interrelated.
I can't be your voice unless I know how you feel about things. That's the only reason I'm asking. I want to be able to advocate to the judge what you direct me to tell her. I'm not going to tell her anything else.
And if you want me to walk away, I will, Ursula.
It's up to Ursula. If she doesn't feel comfortable with that,
If you don't want me to be here while you tell him that you want to be removed or you want to stay, I'll move.
I don't think that's her position. I would be very surprised by that.
But I'm just making sure, and even on recording here,
I get it.
that is said that that I am not hindering her, or being controlling in any manner.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Because I want it on video. Just leave me alone. I'm fine. I'm okay. He doesn't know.
She's a bit stubborn, but
That's okay. I'm like
she needs more corporal punishment.
the
But
thing that's the barrier between CBS and you. That's why I'm here, because I care about what happens.
and that was another thing about that last appointment where she was in your office.
Yeah.
That appointment was ordered by the judge and totally by Judge Martinez Jones. That was ordered so Casa could meet with her, and who was the one person not there? Casa.
I agree.
And basically blindsided by having
Blindsided.
CPS show up.
Blindsided me too.
Heck, we even waited for CPS to show up to begin. That was, and then CPS totally took over, and Casa was nowhere present. So even they, and the already screwed up procedures, screwed it up even more. I mean, literally, they've kicked their own legs out from under them big time.
Has Lee communicated to you about when the court hearing is?
Supposedly it was supposed to be scheduled on Monday, but Peggy was just told that it got rescheduled to like Friday.
Yeah. What happens is on the.
But Mr. Bose has not.
Okay.
The last two emails I got from her, the last contact I received from her. Yes, and I mentioned that we hadn't taken her to taken her to medical, and I didn't know if her out-of-state stuff was still valid or not. According to my wife, it is technically from back when she was in New York. Back in New York State.
They moved it to Friday because it was on the contested docket, and if they can put it any day during the week. It just so happens they set it for Friday, which.
But that puts more stress on us on our end because it's that much longer. We have to wait for resolution.
Lee begged the court to move it, and the court wouldn't do it. I saw the emails. She was like, "No, we need to do it sooner rather than later." Blah 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 blah. And the court said, "We don't have a space."
Well, the very last email I received, because basically she sent me, I sent an email that if the state's going to demand it, the state's going to pay for it. Period. Because otherwise, and the Supreme Court has ruled on this in the case of the Obamacare or Care Act, Affordable Care Act, whatever you want to refer to it as. Common knowledge is Obamacare. That forced medical, it can't be a tax because that's forced commerce. Forcing us to take her to unnecessary medical care and pay for it ourselves is forced commerce.
It is not your financial burden to do that. It is on the
But that's what the department has basically reversed it. Or you can go to one of these free clinics that are there for the illegal immigrants. No, they don't even speak English. They're not going to,
I think the judge,
I'm not going to put my daughter in a place like, you know.
the judge
I mean, it's one
needs-
thing to work with people as a ministry. I've been, one of my very first mission trip I went on was across into Mexico when I was her age, literally. I went on a mission trip out of, but anyways, across the from Eagle Pass to Piedras Negras. I can even say it right, Piedras Negras.
That's good.
Okay. On Youth with a Mission, on a missions trip. Youth with a Mission out of Tyler, aka Lindell, Texas. Okay, I remember that far back. I remember pretty clearly. I even remember because in order to trying to teach everybody how to speak Spanish,
Yeah.
it was one of those. You learn a couple songs in Spanish and then mime work, doing like mime stuff.
Yeah.
Your minister, you know. But anyways, and then the last email I got from Mr. Bose was highly is like, have you or your wife taken her to care? I highly suggest you do it for the court. No, apparently she hasn't read the law either. Read that. Like I say, it's, what is that, 25 or 35, whatever, 001 alpha. Before you get down to number 7, 6 or 7, which is where it says courts, you know, the judge, it has the law enforcement side, it breaks it down, you know, by agency or by care or whatever. It says right there in the top. And if I have to, I will bold it out and put it on the screen when we do go to court.
Work with Mr. Bose.
Is that it says
it's going to be your
unknown, you know, unable to locate, you know, basically presence of parents or guardians unknown, and no notice to the contrary. No notice, as in we don't know what the parents' wishes are. Then the court can intercede. Okay, we don't know where her parents are, based on an abandoned child, you know, such as, you know, safe harbor, you know, dropping off an infant, you know, at the fire halls or whatever. You know, that gives the courts the right to intercede to make sure. But, you know, it says and. Well, one, even though they refuse to admit I'm a parent, parents are known and present. And two, it has been on the record before she made that verbal statement. I have not seen any judges writing to the contrary. And if you know, and if you pay attention to anything in politics, that's even a contested thing with Judge Boasberg and the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Regarding we complied once it was in writing.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, once it was in PACER or whatever system they were using. You know, and that's my contention, is that I've never received writing. Technically, I've never was officially served the writing that says we can't leave the county. Although I found it, it was one of the, you know, and a bunch of stuff that when I got added to the, you know, the PACER docket type or whatever, you know, the family course version of PACER, but I got it added to the list of to be known. I found it where, you know, I'd accidentally saved it to my Google Drive where it was signed by the judge.
Yeah.
But we were never served with it. It was not part of our service document.
There's a local rule that should have been attached to the documents also.
No, all it said was that the agency petitions the court for the
I will look for the
restriction.
I will look for any orders that have been filed in this case.
It is technically filed,
Right.
but was it served? We were never serviced with it.
Well, once the case,
When we were served by the constable,
once you're served with the original, everything gets served to the attorney. So the attorneys have an obligation to share that with you.
and it was not truly known because it was literally it all happened right during the swap.
Well, if you want to follow up with me, if you need anything, let me know. I'm going to let y'all get back to your day. I apologize that we showed up.
Was there a recording of that interview that she had?
I have not seen it. I do know that they said that one of the police officers observed.
No, not last night. No, not the other night.
Okay.
The first interview. The interview.
Yeah.
Was there a recording?
I think there was.
Was it recorded?
I think there was a recording verbally. I didn't get it. The CPS guy got it, and I told him I wanted a copy of it. He said no problem, and then they reneged and they wouldn't give it to me. That's something you can get
because
from the
that was part of what I was why I reached out to you afterwards.
Yeah.
Was because Peggy had told me you said reach out to you so that way I could get forwarded.
And I told
the recording.
The investigator before we started, I need you to share the recording with
Because
me.
believe it or not, Texas state law says
open records
has to be recorded. Interviews with child.
Yeah.
We have the right. It has to be recorded. But of course, it is common knowledge, and the reason. And I read this through both one of the father's rights advocates. I believe he's up in the Georgetown area. It was either off of his website or it was actually off of the homeschooling, the National Homeschooling Association, off their Texas site because they have a Texas specific section.
I don't want to.
That the recordings are to be
giving you legal advice, but let me just say.
No, I'm
going to say something.
You're not my attorney. You're hers. I get it.
I'm her attorney. However, if I was in your shoes, I might think about telling my attorney that she should object to any mention of the interviews without having them provide you a copy of the recording in advance.
I tried. Mr. DeBose and Mr. Wilson were both basically, they're going to allow the court. Mr. Wilson, the first thing he said, even before the dismissal, without prejudice, the next thing they're going to do is force you into service, demand that you get services. I mean, it was a given. It was a given. It was a given. The process, this process and procedure has been a given. I mean, literally, when that first part was dismissed without prejudice, they had no grounds for this other. If you notice, it has a separate docket number for this enforcement of services.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm saying this on behalf of her and everyone. I mean, this is basically. You may not have noticed. I understand she's not your only client, and I respect that. And that's why I'm not afraid to leave a voicemail. I get it.
Don't hesitate.
when necessary.
Okay.
But the moment they dismissed without prejudice, they had to start the process from the beginning. They cannot skip over, create a new docket number, basically skip about 3 different hearings in the middle of it to demand services. If they're concerned and they wanted the court to order her to be seen in violation of the law, as I've been stating, that should have been before the dismissal.
The judge ordered that the child advocates should have access to see Ursula. And I said, I'm willing to do it at my office so that they don't come and interfere with your home life over here. So.
And I respected you for that, and I even respected Gaffney making sure to object to what they were trying to pull with you regarding the interview, trying to pull hearsay. And that's another thing. That's another thing. That African gentleman there, I'm not even going to attempt to remember his name. Okay, I just know from Africa, Tanzania, St. Thomas, wherever. Then Officer Campbell, one of the people that did respond with the supervisor when I requested the supervisor, sergeant, was Officer Campbell with APD, and he said he was from St. Thomas, but he had that accent that is very similar to the islands / African accentuation to their language because of that whole French influence. I get it. Yeah. I was in the Navy. I've been around the world, and
You've seen a lot. All right.
I like that. But anyways. When it comes to a lot of this stuff, one, what he was saying, and this judge, you have to realize, Judge Castillo Littlejohn basically was an attorney like you, DeBose, Wilson, with even less experience than any of you. Okay? And she's only been voted, and she was voted into the position conveniently last summer. I believe it either said June or July is when she was given the position of associate judge. Okay. She allowed, because he is a supervisor, he had no direct or indirect contact with Ursel through you, through any other way.
That's true.
It was hearsay upon hearsay upon hearsay that he was providing to the court. No one said the words objection to hearsay.
The way that the courts, whether it's legal or not, they
Because
look,
if we get, because
they look at CPS as an entity. They look at CASA as an entity. So,
yes, and here's another thing the Supreme Court has ruled on. Pardon me if I get the term wrong or if I can't remember the exact term, but the ruling that gives agencies the benefit of the doubt in any case.
Yeah.
I forget the exact term, the exact name of the, because it was some bureaucratic type, it was part of the red tape side of things where it was implemented into the court system. But that was overturned. So the judiciary, any judiciary, giving a government entity bias to believe what they're saying is true, like on hearsay or anything, that's been wiped out.
Well,
That was wiped out
let me tell you one thing.
actually before the elections.
This is an important perspective, okay? There's an affidavit that they use, hearsay statements all throughout. That is
and nobody got to question the original statements.
Key to opening a case. Do you know that affidavit is not admissible in any contested hearing or trial?
Then why was it admitted?
It wasn't.
The agency basically admitted it on the docket for that contested hearing.
They cannot admit that into evidence. It is hearsay. It is right.
They did. What we were
person-
served with for this whole docket for that
only
contested
the
hearing.
person that actually made the statement can be there to authenticate it.
Miss Alcozer was not there, who was the one who allegedly received the statement or put it into the system anyways. And Officers Lewis and Gilio and whoever that other detective, none of them were there. So that whole statement should have been wiped out. The whole saying that supposedly she has bad feet should have been wiped out. Why is the judge still ruling illegally on things that are inadmissible? Because she's new, she's fresh, and she's been brainwashed to believe the agency is always right. If you notice, and I noticed this bias from Castillo. We haven't been in front of Miss the Honorable Aurora Martinez Jones. Okay, I'll just say Aurora. It's easier to remember that. Honorable Aurora. Well, that's too close to the AMG cause. I'm sorry. I'm sure she'll be related with that. American Motors Group. And the old AMC Eagle, which is a 4x4 station wagon. I digress. But anyways, there's been basically zero review really from AMJ over this court case with Castillo Littlejohn. And because she is an associate and she is still brand new, there should have been some reviews. And because of the lack of review, and because she's only basically appeared once out of the 3 hearings so far, and it was the middle one she appeared. It wasn't even the first one where her name was on the docket, on the paperwork, on the Zoom hearing even. I was expecting Aurora, and I'd already kind of, Googled and saw that on YouTube there was like 2 news articles, and to figure out who she was about and try, to at least get an idea of who the judge was. Right. Just the idea of personality. And then I see Castillo Littlejohn that first hearing. It's like, I thought because it was the overhead view of her desk, I thought it was the court clerk that was saying, "Welcome to the meeting." And then she said her name so fast, I personally didn't catch it. My recording did, but I believe. I haven't double checked it. I just backed it up. Because, because I know it's hell to try and get this stuff from the courts, but I've been making my own. I'll admit, the only recordings I haven't done have been with my attorneys. And I regret that decision now.
Well, I don't mind you recording me because I'm very straightforward about things.
Well, it's mostly, I'll admit, it's mostly because of her. And, you know, if she wanted me to stop recording or step away, or if she wanted to hold the phone and record while I stepped away, I have no, because I know my wife's previous husband that caused a lot of her injuries, physical injuries, caused the beginning of her blindness, was an abusive, controlling a-hole. Vietnam vet, got drunk and abused. Okay? And so she hasn't seen, if you showed her videos of familial interactions of where abuse is taking place, although she's probably seen some things on TV and compare that to how we treat her, if anything, especially because you also got to realize, she was born in New York, my wife was raised in New York, I was in New York. They are stricter, they have more restrictions on parental rights for discipline or anything else. By any guess or means, she's been spoiled. I mean, yeah, we don't have a bridge management and things like that. But this child, even though she does, they can dial 911 if they need to, but she's got 2 older phones that are being used as electronic devices to help her with schoolwork. Her screen got busted on her laptop, but I was using a mini laptop of mine so she could do her online schoolwork. She's also got a tablet for schoolwork, reading things. I mean, how many children do you know have those things?
I get it.
They may not be the highest end, high-end model.
I'm carrying this flag to decide how you should parent your child. That's not my job.
Well, no, I'm just saying, in order to better advocate for her, to understand her environment, and that, yes, she is your client, and yes, I am disparaging your client at the moment by saying she could be a spoiled, rotten, disobedient brat. Okay?
As can many 12 and 13-year-olds, regardless of where they're in school.
I wasn't when I was that age, but my brother and all my siblings were, and the ones that I know and helped raise a bit, but, and of course, because of past experience, this is the first time my wife is properly hitting that age of fully raising the child in that. And believe it or not, in order even for my wife to become more of a disciplinarian, that is allowed under Texas law. Okay, which is don't leave for not excessive. The corporal, under corporal punishment. She has been very held back. I've been the disciplinarian most of her life. You could ask her. And I've even mostly held back because I don't want to do things out of anger. But with her, punishment doesn't work. You put her in a corner, you try to do the timeouts with what parenting classes teach you that we both completed. Okay, we didn't complete the same one, but my wife had completed the classes before before she was court ordered again when I met her. Okay, and that was before she was born, before we were even married. Me and Peggy met at a parenting class where I was court ordered for another child that I had nothing to do with, and I got slapped left and right with things that I shouldn't have. Endangering the welfare of the child for cleanliness of the home, and I'd only been back in New York State less than 48 hours. And half of that was I went back to work for a security company, and I lost my security guard card in New York State because of the pending charge. So I lost my ability to work. And also during that time frame when I was out of state, I went cross country to Washington State for my oldest, the one I consider my oldest son, who's now over 21. My name was on his birth certificate. I knew I wasn't, we met when she was 6 months pregnant. I even paid child support for a few years before they finally did the DNA test. Oh, you're not the father, therefore. And basically
So there's one thing I wanted to make sure to point out before I go. is that you can come to court if you want to, but you do not have to come to court. So
I want to, but my parents are protective of me. I understand and I stay out.
I just wanted to let you know
That and if you see how stressed Peggy gets, even when they both came to your office, versus how more relaxed Peggy is, just when going for her appearance in courts.
I think it might go,
even in front of.
And you'll be on Zoom, I'm guessing. So
As long as I'm sent the link, I'll be on Zoom.
I'll make sure that they get a link.
Now, if it's requested, because this child ends up sleeping in a lot, and on these morning ones, I'll admit,
this one's going to be at
half the time she's asleep.
It's going to be at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Sometimes she's up, sometimes she's not. It's hot. You try to stay temperature regulate. Whatever. In Texas, people take afternoon naps. Siestas. But but if it's requested, I will bring her in on the camera.
Okay.
But it has not been requested. It hasn't even been suggested.
That's why I'm not asking for Ursula to have to participate unless she wants to. So
yeah, and
it's her option.
That's why I blur the background so they can't see inside the home. Although Miss AMJ, I was able to just use the picture of myself, the avatar, on the Zoom hearing.
She's fairly tolerant about those things. She's pretty nice.
Well, I wasn't being ridiculous like with a cat or donkey or some silly thing.
My suggestion is just turn it on when you're going to speak. Otherwise, leave it off if you want. I don't think she'll.
Well, we have Verizon and the internet's been cruddy, so anything to solidify the voice part of the connection is helpful.
Gotcha.
But I know with Castillo Littlejohn, the first time I blurred it, second time she basically demanded, it was in the description or something like that. She didn't have to verbally say anything to me. I saw it in the lead up. But that was the first time I also saw in the Zoom meeting. At any point, the statement, at any point in time, any party may request de novo. Because
and when you have you have that right.
Because at this point, if they continue to try and enforce these illegal orders, that's my only resolution.
All right. Well, y'all, I'm gonna go. Ursula, I'll see you. Oh, what's up?
I just want to state that I even used to go to the doctor.
Yeah. Okay. I understand. And you want the court not to make you go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it takes time to build rapport with a proper pediatrician and things like that. And just to randomly go,
I was advocating for that. That's your choice.
you got to go now. You got to go within 4 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever till the next hearing.
I hear you.
And but ultimately, it's the law. The law does not give that judge that authority.
Tell the judge.
And they're working on new House bills and stuff right now.
Her position is she doesn't want to go. Doesn't need to go.
Yeah, if she needed to go,
issues, she would go.
we'd be the first. But that's another thing that didn't quite get realized by the court, and they failed to realize. Granted, neither me or my wife were MDs, but we both have a medical background.
I get that. I know that.
But the court and the agency doesn't want to realize if we felt there was a need. Like I said, when we have gone, we know our bodies. We know, because trust me, we don't like going either.
Well, we need to
for ourselves.
We need to make sure that the lawyers are informed to argue that for you, because I'm in an awkward position from court that I can't argue for things that y'all are asking for. I can only argue for things she's asking.
I understand and respect that, and that's why. But for example, the law is the law, no matter who's arguing that part. And the hearsay stuff was hearsay on hearsay on hearsay, and I'll take it under advisement because Castillo Littlejohn did not. I mean, that was her last jab for the agency was because she is so that's prejudicial. That shows prejudicial bias, which is an appealable thing. But you have to have the history. I mean, you got to go through this whole lengthy process to appeal and trying to get the transcripts and all this other stuff. I mean, and if I had the money and I had a decent attorney, I'd be doing it real quick and in a hurry. I would have done it back on the first part. Because Castillo Littlejohn, especially that last jab, I'll take it under advisement because all, my attorney, her attorney, you all stated no evidence. There's nothing here. Dismissal based upon no foundation. I'll take it under advisement. Oh, but I'm going to verbally order that the parents take her to be seen by a doctor and dentist unnecessarily for a checkup. I mean, even her previous doctor, and I even mentioned on the record, said that unless it's needed for like a school physical, for strenuous activities, she doesn't need it until she's due for like booster shots, like like the tetanus and yeah. Her last doctor that she was seeing, we're getting close to the age where she would need like the tetanus booster, and at that point we'll take care of it because it's no larvae. But that's an immunization, and that can be taken care of. Half the time it can be taken care of at Walgreens.
Yeah.
Doesn't need a full-blown workup. And like I say, no rapport. We're going to randomly, and like I say, have commerce with a Travis County physician, because that was one of the things I was objecting to my attorney. Is our mailing address is Livingston, Texas, Polk County. Our vehicle, our RV, our home, is registered to the state of Kentucky, or was. Okay. My wife's ID still says New York. We have not become official Texas residents. So forcing us to do commerce in Texas,
I completely understand your position.
and it's also basically interstate commerce at that point, is even more of a violation. But I mean, and here's the thing, and I'm waiting for her to try and haul me in for contempt, which would require a separate criminal hearing, because contempt is a criminal charge. Civil criminal, it's not a family court thing, and plus it has to be held by someone other than the judge demanding contempt. I'm waiting for the shiny, that's another thing. Whether it's Monday, Thursday, Friday, am I going to end up in shiny bracelets? You know how much stress that's putting on me over a contempt charge? Even though I'm not the one in violation of the law? And she did get put in shiny bracelets. For no reason.
I wasn't informed of that. That's really...
Well, I'll make sure when I'm able to get it uploaded, because I was planning on clipping out that kind of stuff and making YouTube shorts to share the abuse of the agency. I'll make sure that you'll. Actually, I can probably show it to you on my phone now. Is best, but I mean, literally, basically, and then she still refused to go to the back of the trailer with them. The other officer suggested maybe going over to the pavilion, and according to my daughter, the female officer, one of the female officers, the sergeant, had to loosen the cuffs. That's the first time that's the first time she's ever seen handcuffs.
terrible. All right.
How many times we've threatened to have her arrested, or do like physical hand, like cuffing when she was little.
It's always under these circumstances, but y'all hang in there. Hopefully this will pass, and you guys can move on with your lives.
I will say, on behalf of Ursel, and now that I've pointed out to you, maybe you're like, okay, I kind of see it too now. If you see it again, please don't be afraid to speak up on her behalf and call the judge an objection to judicial bias. Put it on the record, because that's why I'm so delayed before I make my objections. As I'm waiting for you, I'm waiting for her attorney, or even my own attorney.
I have to stay in my lane to the most effect. But
I understand.
I will look at.
But like I say, the hearsay thing.
Yeah. I will look at that hearsay
because part of the hearsay was what was you allegedly said too.
Well, what needed to be done was your attorney and your wife's attorney needed to be objected to. They needed to. I don't understand that.
But here's
Oh, and claims.
I'll be honest, and it might even be somewhat of the case with you. I'll be honest, we saw this in other states as well when we had to have hearings. And ultimately, it's nothing personal, and it's part of the reason why, making sure I built that rapport before you even talked to her the first time.
Sure.
We understand we're not your own clients for any of our attorneys. We understand y'all work with these same judges, the same agency workers every day. For good or for bad. For the bad side of things, I'm not saying anybody's doing it specifically here. I have no evidence to that effect. I'm making sure I'm saying this to make sure that I'm not misrepresented in what I'm saying. But to the full negative of it, because we've kind of seen it in New York State, our attorneys that were representatives were both high school friends. My wife went to school with. They both have now committed suicide. But my attorney conveniently, they couldn't continue on with our case, and so they forced us into dealing with the agency. In fact, that report where it says that they were coming to the home, they sent in services to come to the home basically for no reason. We were forced into that agreement because our attorneys backed out. Her attorney ended up committing suicide within like 3 to 6 months later. My attorney conveniently became the town judge in the town that a secondary town judge in the town that we were forced to move into.
One of the reasons that
And not just that side of it, but the fact being that since y'all do work with them, the bad side is, well, they'll go extra lenient over here on this case with this attorney if you roll over and play dead over here a little bit.
So I want to be clear about that.
I'm just saying that's the extreme bad side, and I'm not saying there's any evidence to that,
I
but
will tell you that
in this particular instance,
in my opinion, my humble opinion, Judge Martinez-Jones puts me on some of the hardest cases because she knows I'm going to go do my job. She knows I'm going to advocate the way and in the position of my client. And she has no.
Please don't take it that I'm saying anything negative about you.
I just want to be clear about that.
You don't even have to speak up for yourself. I'm just saying this as a generalization, not against any specific attorney or anything else.
But I can see why
Although,
you have a concern.
and especially when my own attorneys, which is why I've had to switch attorneys, have told me my constitutional rights as a parent, as a human being violated are red herrings. They're not red herrings if they're being violated. That's why you have, 18 and 14 U.S. codes, 1982, 83 lawsuits.
In the context of where he said that, but
they both have said that because they don't want to argue that because they have the other cases, and that's where I feel I'm personally getting misrepresented.
I'm so sorry. I would love to stay. I've got commitments with my son today,
So you're an alumni of the Longhorns, huh? Hook 'em Horn. At least you're not a TCU alumni.
Oh gosh, no.
No, I had a stepfather who was, and he was a mental health specialist. Who ended up committing suicide.
I went to SMU, and my great uncle was the president of it.
SMU up at Wichita Falls.
No, in St. Methodist.
Yeah, but I know they have a campus at Wichita Falls. Okay. Yeah, that tells you how much I grew up in Texas. I know a lot of it.
My mom was a preacher too, because my grandfather was a minister.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah. But yeah, overall, it's just you've been doing a pretty good job of advocating. I like what got people when they tried to pull the stunt to try to take hearsay and make it admissible. But nobody actually said the objection to hearsay. Because that's another thing I noticed even when I have objected in front of Little John, is that other than making the statement where she gets her authority, the objections I've made, technically she hasn't ruled on those objections as sustained or overruled or anything.
Your lawyer can ask for a ruling, sustained or overruled. They should be asking.
But that's why at the very last second, as I have to before, as the judge is finishing the court, making sure it's all over, because I'm giving the attorneys
I know.
the chance.
Have to talk before court with your lawyer.
You know, the last 2 times I talked to her was literally the night before court. The first time was an hour, the second time was a half hour.
She needs to
Actually, no.
She needs to understand you to understand your case.
I think her primary office address is the same as Mr. Wilson. So she, and especially by both of them using the red herring, I think even though, and plus how fast I was transferred, given the new attorney, how fast the court appointment switched, I mean, literally within a couple hours. I think it was an inter-office transfer, from
I don't know.
one senior
I know
partner
them
to
both.
another,
I
from
know
one
them
partner
both.
to another.
I know them both, but I don't know if they're both in the same office.
Well, I know the number. I know the phone number is very similar as well. So it's not the same. But
I'm sorry to cut you off. I have to go.
But
I have a commitment. So.
these are also, our rights are also our daughter's rights, and so therefore,
I'm not in the business of breaking up families. That's not my job.
no, they're not. They say they're not trying to break us up, but by forcing us, I mean, literally, they are the ones creating. It's foreseen, and you can argue this point. The circumstances that they are alleging foreseen abuse or neglect is because they are creating the foreseen circumstances. They're creating the housing crisis because we weren't able to go get registered properly. They are creating.
I'm going to argue that this new stuff, that she felt abused by the police, not by you. Okay?
Yeah, she even said so.
You had reasonable parental discipline, and the police did not. That's what I'm going to argue.
Oh, definitely. No, not just the police. Officer Hughes. Like Howard Hughes, same spelling. I didn't catch the badge number. It is on the recording, but it was Officer Hughes. I mean, he was as skinny as you are, but he was about this tall. So he has one of those Napoleon complexes, and he admits to only being with APD for 2 years.
Has he been out here before?
Hughes, none of the officers that were here last night, or not last night, the night before last, have I seen before over here. Now they may be patrolling by. I don't know who all was in those patrol vehicles.
Establish their authority or something, but it's not appropriate to cover it.
And also, because I had mentioned about how this, before the first incident in December, end of November, beginning of December, I had filed what became an IA complaint against an Officer Golden with the department, who was patrolling with Officer Bender, and Officer Golden had made policy violations regarding IDing to the public.
Keep
and
filing those complaints because they can't get away with doing that stuff.
No, I had done that before December 27th. So conveniently it's an officer's, and it highly seems retaliatory.
Okay.
The time, but neither here nor there. But none of them knew who Golden was, the officers that came, but they knew who Bender was. So.
I'm so sorry.
But yeah. Yes, I'm very thirsty.